Out in the heart of Texas, chaos erupts as a herd of feral hogs barrels through a cornfield, leaving destruction in their wake. Dozens of these powerful animals tear down fences, raid feed stores, and will even go after anyone who dares to stand in their path. For farmers, it's not just an inconvenience. It's a fight for their crops, their livestock, and in some cases, their very safety. The question is, how can America's farmers defend themselves against such a relentless and dangerous invader? If you want to follow more of these incredible stories, make sure to hit subscribe and join us for the next one. Across the United States, feral hogs have turned into an invading force unlike anything farmers have faced before. Their numbers grow at a staggering pace. A single sow can produce 2 or 3 litters a year, often with more than 10 piglets each. What starts as a handful of hogs can explode into hundreds within just a few seasons, leaving chaos in their wake as they sweep across the southern states. The worst damage is concentrated in Texas, Florida, and Georgia, with Texas standing as ground zero for this crisis. The Lone Star State is home to more than 3 million feral hogs, nearly half the nation's total population. They rip through farmland like a hurricane, flattening crops, wrecking irrigation systems, and even tearing apart costly farm equipment worth thousands of dollars. And it doesn't stop in the countryside. When food runs short, these hogs push straight into towns and cities, knocking over trash cans, tearing into barns, and even attacking livestock. Their ability to adapt to almost any environment makes them one of the most relentless invaders American farmers have ever faced. Out in the wild, they're like monsters, ready to charge at anything in their path. On highways, entire herds have darted across the road without warning, triggering devastating accidents that look like scenes ripped from an action movie. To make matters worse, these animals aren't just destructive. They're also dangerous carriers of disease, spreading threats like African swine fever, anthrax, leptospirosis, and a host of deadly parasites. With feral hog numbers spiraling out of control, many American farmers have been left with no choice but to arm themselves in defense of their land and families. For some, hunting is the only immediate solution. When there aren't enough resources to form a larger hunting team, a lone farmer often takes matters into his own hands. Armed with a long-barreled rifle, the solo hunter waits patiently, sometimes hidden in the brush, other times perched high on a platform, watching for the herd to appear. Success demands steady nerves, precise aim, and a deep understanding of the terrain. One careless shot can send the entire herd scattering, or worse, provoke them into charging back. To improve their chances, hunters often rely on night vision or infrared scopes, allowing them to pick off hogs quietly and avoid triggering chaos among the rest of the pack. Group hunting changes the game. When farmers and hunters team up, efficiency rises dramatically. A squad of 3 or 4 people usually works best, with each member taking on a defined role. An observer to track movements, a driver to flush the hogs out, primary shooter to lead the attack, and a backup ready to cover the rest. Together, they move with the precision of a military-style ambush, boxing the herd in from multiple directions. Every hunter holds a strategic position, ensuring that even when the hogs scatter and panic, the group keeps them contained. This approach is especially effective against large herds, sometimes dozens strong, where a lone hunter will be quickly overwhelmed. In numbers, the hunters control the chaos, and the feral hogs stand little chance of escape. Mobile hunting with off-road vehicles has become a go-to method in wide-open states like Texas and Oklahoma. Hunters often rig up custom gun mounts on UTVs, ATVs, or the back of pickup trucks, turning them into rolling battle stations. With the help of infrared flashlights or drones, they track down herds of hogs, then throttle up and open fire while in motion. The chase is intense, headlights cutting through the darkness, engines roaring across the fields, and gunfire cracking through the night sky. It's a high-stakes pursuit that feels more like a life-or-death showdown than a simple hunt, with adrenaline pumping until the last hog goes down. Some professional hunting crews even go a step further, mounting live cameras on their gear and vehicles to capture every heart-pounding moment. The footage turns into dramatic videos that spread quickly across social media, giving viewers a front-row seat to the action. But here's the bigger question. Is hunting with firearms really the only answer? Or could there be more effective and possibly more humane ways to manage this relentless invasion? We'd love to hear your take, so drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, make sure to hit that like button, share it with friends, and subscribe to our channel. That way, you won't miss future stories about rural America, tales of survival, battles to protect farmland, and the untold challenges shaping life in the countryside. We'll see you in the next adventure. Earlier this morning, local farmers reached out in a panic. Their cornfields were under siege by wild boars. Row after row was being ripped apart, and the damage was spreading fast. We didn't hesitate for a moment. Gear in hand, we were on the road immediately. For us, this isn't just about hunting. It's about standing guard over the quiet, hard-earned way of life that these rural communities depend on. If you want to follow more real stories from the field and see how we fight back to protect our land, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us on the journey. We arrive at the fields just before sunrise, right where the hogs have been tearing things up night after night. Want to know how the chase turned out? Drop a 1 in the comments and stick around for the full video. These wild boars aren't small. They usually run between 200 and 440 pounds, and a few can push close to 900. They're a farmer's worst nightmare, destroying crops, ripping up soil, and racking up protection costs. Globally, they're behind an estimated $1.5 billion in damage every single year. And it doesn't stop there. Wild hogs also throw ecosystems out of balance and carry diseases that can spread to livestock and even people. That morning, the hunt was on. We moved slow and steady, crouched low in the brush at the field's edge. Then the silence broke. Leaves rustled ahead of us, a clear sign we weren't alone. There it is, I whispered, steadying my aim before squeezing the trigger. The shot cracked through the stillness of dawn, and the boar collapsed after stumbling a few steps. With one down, we quickly pressed on, following the fresh tracks of the herd. Then, out of nowhere, a shadow burst from the brush. For a split second, everyone froze, rifles locked and ready. The hog charged straight at us, but at the last moment it swerved with shocking speed, breaking our ambush. Don't let it slip away. I yelled, adrenaline surging. The beast darted like lightning, but one sharp, precise shot from a teammate finally dropped it where it stood. Just as we started to catch our breath, one of the guys spotted another group tearing into the cornfield. They stayed buried deep in the stalks, refusing to show themselves, so we let the dogs loose. Within seconds, the hounds flushed one out, and we closed in from a safe distance. I steadied my rifle, squeezed the trigger, and the shot rang out. You had to see it to believe it. The hog easily tipped the scales at over 330 pounds, tusks gleaming like blades as it lunged forward. Moments later, word came through that the rest of the herd was on the move, heading straight for the mountains. Without a second thought, we piled into the truck and gunned it after them. My buddy kept the truck steady on the rough trail while I gripped the rifle, waiting for the right moment. The herd climbed fast, using the mountainside to their advantage, but we weren't about to let them slip away. The ride was rough, the ground unforgiving, yet when a clear shot finally opened up, I took it. One pulled the trigger, and the boar dropped where it stood. We pushed deeper up the mountain and ran into another straggler. A quick, clean shot put it down before it even had a chance to turn. But the rest of the herd had already broken over the far ridge. I grabbed the radio and called in Mabel. From her vantage point high above, she had the perfect angle, and she was already locking in on her target. Gunshots cracked through the cliffs, but the boar twisted and darted with surprising speed. It couldn't run forever, though. We trailed it up the slope until it broke into a clearing, and that's where we ended it, before it had the chance to tear up more ground. I was easing my way back down when the brush exploded. A massive hog charged straight out of the shadows, catching me off guard. Instinct kicked in. I fired twice without thinking. What had started as a straightforward hunt suddenly flipped on its head. The prey wasn't running anymore. It was coming for us. With their raw power and blistering speed, these wild boars weren't just dangerous. They were fearless. This was their hour to feed, and our chance to cut them off. The truck tore across the open fields, dust rising behind us as the sun dipped low, painting the bare trees along the road in fiery light. Every eye in the cab stayed locked on the horizon, searching. Then, right at the field's edge, a herd of wild hogs emerged. Their rough, mud-caked hides blended almost perfectly with the fading light, making them hard to spot, and each one carried the risk of spreading disease. Ever been on a wild hog hunt yourself? Drop a 2 in the comments if you have, or a 3 if you haven't. The second they saw us, the herd froze, muscles coiled, ready to break. But before they could scatter, the crack of gunfire ripped through the stillness. A few hogs went down hard, thrashing against the dry earth, while the rest tore off into the trees. We weren't about to let them vanish. Step by step, we pushed higher, scrambling over jagged rock as brittle leaves crunched beneath our boots. The silence was heavy, pressing in from all sides, until the hounds shattered it with a chorus of sharp, frantic barks. The herd was close. Every muscle tightened as the team locked in. I raised my rifle, drew a steady breath, and squeezed the trigger. The shot cracked through the mountains, rolling like thunder. This time, the hog didn't make it out alive. It dropped in its tracks, the perfect end to a hunt that had our hearts pounding from start to finish. After a hard night's rest, we gathered our strength and pushed deeper into the forest. It didn't take long before the dogs erupted into furious barking, their voices slicing through the still air. Everyone froze, listening. Beneath the noise was an unsettling silence. Then, without warning, a massive dark figure exploded out of the thicket. Then I steadied my rifle, squeezed the trigger, and the shot connected. The 130-pound hog staggered before crashing to the ground, its dust-caked hide finally motionless. But the fight was far from over. Other hunting crews had joined in, each determined to defend this land. I set up near a bush and held my position. Out of nowhere, another giant boar charged into view, moving with terrifying speed. My first shot missed. Heart pounding, I fired again and again. Not until the 5th or 6th round did the beast collapse, the forest echoing with the end of its charge. Hunting isn't just about the thrill of the chase. It's about balance, responsibility, and respect for the land. Every shot fired is a reminder of why we're out here: to protect farms, safeguard ecosystems, and preserve a way of life that countless families depend on. Wild hogs may be fierce and relentless, but so are we. As hunters, it's our duty to hunt ethically, take clean shots, and never waste what nature provides. This fight is bigger than any single hunt. It's about passing on healthy land to the next generation. If you want to keep riding with us through the grit, the danger, and the victories, make sure you're subscribed and ready for the next story. The battle continues, and you won't want to miss what comes next. The morning started out ordinary, until an alarm shattered the stillness. In a heartbeat, Nick and his crew were on the move, grabbing their gear and sprinting toward the fields. No one spoke. Only sharp, determined glances passed between them as their boots pounded the earth, closing in on the source of trouble. When they arrived, the enemy was nowhere in sight. Only the telltale signs remained: deep footprints pressed into the dirt, stalks bent and broken in their wake. Could it track down the culprit before more damage was done? What came next will be less a chase than an all-out battle. If you want to witness every twist and turn of the hunt, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Before dawn, the Italian wetlands lay silent, broken only by the soft crunch of footsteps tracking faint signs. 15 minutes in, a gunshot split the air. The hunt had begun. The boar bolted, but Nick's swift grip ended its escape. With the first catch secured, the team moved to the field's edge. From the thicket ahead, a dark shape burst forth, charging straight into chaos. But today, Nick was ready. The crack of a rifle split the air, and in a heartbeat, the beast hit the ground. Another danger ended by the sure aim of a seasoned hunter. Before he could even confirm the kill, a familiar noise rose from somewhere deep in the field, just a few hundred yards away. Without a second thought, he took off running, every stride fueled by urgency, his eyes sweeping the terrain with razor-sharp focus. He stopped, lifted his rifle, and found a wild boar squarely in his sights. A sharp crack split the air, and the shot hit true. The animal dropped hard to his right. Across the field, while Nick was locked in his own fight, James spotted movement. Through the open patch ahead, a boar burst into view, tearing forward as if chased by an invisible predator. Without giving it a second's chance, James pulled the trigger. The animal crumpled into the sun-baked grass. The immediate threat was over, but the hunt was far from finished. The team pushed on toward Nick's family orchard, moving in silence until they reached their destination. Without a word, each man slipped into cover, vanishing into the landscape. Rifles in hand, they waited, still and focused. 20 long minutes under the scorching sun stretched their patience thin. Then, at last, Nick saw his chance. One perfectly placed shot, and the beast's every path to freedom was gone. What's your take on that shot? Let me know in the comments. Rain began to fall, but the hunters kept moving, step by deliberate step. Nick and his team never wavered, their concentration sharpening even as the sound of a well-placed shot. Then, in a flash, a wild boar burst across their path, only to be caught in Nick's unyielding sights. .1 crisp shot rang out, dropping the beast in its tracks. The deadly tusks that could have torn through the fertile fields lay still. The threat ended in an instant. Across these fertile lands, wild boars strike without mercy, destroying millions of dollars worth of crops in just one night. Refusing to stand by, the hunters pushed deep into the wilderness, determined to track the beasts to their very strongholds. But will they have what it takes to put an end to the threat? Up next, heart-pounding encounters and high-stakes ambushes that will keep you locked in. Stick around until the very end and decide for yourself which moment takes the crown. On a hillside thick with brush, the hunting team fanned out quickly, locking the area down. From a choke point, the sharpshooter caught sight of a wild boar's silhouette slipping from the trees. Without hesitation, gunfire erupted. The clean, decisive shot dropped the animal and signaled the start of the action to come. On the hill's western slope, Nick scanned the opposite ridge through his scope. Within minutes, another boar emerged, weaving through tall grass in a bid to vanish back into cover. Nick found his angle and squeezed the trigger. The boar dropped into the grass, its escape cut short, a flawless shot that ended the hidden threat in an instant. Meanwhile, in another corner of the hillside, a surprise close-range encounter was taking shape. Following faint tracks, a hunter closed in, only to spot a boar tucked beneath thick brush. In a split second, he opened fire. The rapid shots gave the animal no time to react. The beast dropped in the very spot it thought was safe. Moments later, gunfire erupted from every direction, marking the end of multiple threats and restoring calm to the land. Deep in a Hungarian thicket, John's team moved in to stop the rampage of the destructive herd. As soon as they arrived, the hunters fanned out, following the faintest signs of movement. It didn't take long before they spotted a group of wild boars, casually foraging, completely unaware they had stepped straight into the crosshairs. Waiting for the right second, the hunter squeezed the trigger. Two boars dropped instantly, while a third bolted for cover. Refusing to let it slip away, he tracked its escape route and relayed the position to his team. The call came through John's radio, and he moved fast to intercept. Seconds later, the boar lumbered into view. John didn't hesitate. A single shot tore through the air, dropping the animal where it stood. This time, there was no escape. Another win was added to the team's growing tally. From the far side of the field, the sharp bark of hunting dogs rang out, warning of an incoming target. The shooter steadied himself, rifle poised, eyes fixed on where the prey would break cover. Less than a minute later, the boar burst into view, sprinting hard toward the safety of the thickets. One clean, decisive shot dropped it in its tracks, just steps from freedom. Hunting isn't just about the thrill of the chase. It's about protecting the land, preserving the balance of nature, and respecting the game we pursue. Every shot fired is a responsibility, and every hunt teaches us patience, precision, and respect for the wild. Wild boars may be fierce and destructive, but with skill, discipline, and teamwork, hunters can protect crops, wildlife, and livelihoods. If you've enjoyed riding along on today's adventure, stick with us. The next videos will take you even deeper into the heart of the hunt, with more high-stakes moments and lessons from the field. Subscribe now, turn on the bell, and join us for the next chapter in this ongoing battle for the land.